Hey dreamers, welcome to Snoozy Tour, the place where stories don't just help you fall asleep. They pull you into entire worlds built from sound, memory, and wonder. Tonight, we begin a journey that stretches farther than time itself. A story about how humanity once sang to the stars, and how the stars one day began to sing back. Have you ever wondered what happens after the end of the world? If silence could remember every word you've ever said? Or if the universe might still be listening to the faint hum of your heartbeat? Here you don't just hear a story, you become the listener. Every breath, every whisper, every note of this tale is part of a song that began long before you were born and might never truly end. So lie back, close your eyes, and ask yourself one question. Do you still sing? Because tonight, the universe will answer. You open your eyes to the sound of glass cracking. At first you think it's thunder. Then you realize it's the ceiling above you fracturing like ice under pressure. You're standing in the middle of a museum. The air smells of dust and electricity, the kind of silence that hums before disaster. Around you, displays flicker. A Roman helmet gleams, an Egyptian scarab glows faintly, a samurai mask watches from the shadows. Then you notice the floor. It's moving. A crack spreads between your shoes. The tiles crumble inward, and something beneath shines like molten gold. You lean closer, hypnotized, until the voice comes. Soft, female, ageless. Learn or die forgotten. You stumble backward, heart pounding. What? Who said that? But there's no one around. Just the glow, growing stronger, swirling into a spiral of light and sand. Would you run or would you look closer? Would curiosity win over fear like it always does in the stories that start badly? You kneel. The air bends. The artifact in the center, a bronze disc covered in symbols, hums to life. Every image around you, every era, every civilization begins to blur. Pharaohs, samurai, kings, queens, their faces melt into one chaotic vision. The floor gives way. You're falling. Not like gravity, more like being pulled by something that knows your name. You scream, but the sound gets swallowed. You see flashes, deserts, forests, rivers, battles. You see pyramids half built, Roman arches half destroyed, cities rising and burning in the same breath. And through it all, that voice. Every age has its monsters. Some wear crowns, some wear the mirror. When you finally stop falling, you're standing ankle deep in water. The light hurts your eyes. The air tastes old, thick with dust and sweetness. You smell something burning far away, incense maybe, or rot. The sun blinds you. You look down and see the Nile, or what you think is the Nile. Men pass you with baskets of grain. Women kneel by the river washing linen. Their hair glistens with oil, their wrists jingling with bronze. Everyone is working, singing, sweating, like this is all perfectly normal. Your brain can't process it. This isn't a reenactment. This is ancient Egypt. But how? Why you? You remember the whisper, learn or die forgotten. Would you believe it's real, or would you convince yourself it's a dream? Would you try to find Wi-Fi, or a god? A boy stares at you. His eyes are sharp, curious. He tugs your sleeve and shouts something you don't understand. A moment later, 3 men appear, sun-dark skin, shaved heads, carrying spears tipped with copper. They yell. You raise your hands. You're trying to say, I don't understand, but it comes out as nonsense. One of them looks at your shoes, touches the fabric of your clothes, frowns. You realize too late, your outfit, jeans, t-shirts, sneakers, screams alien. They grab your arms. You try to resist, but the grip is solid, practiced. They drag you through rows of reeds and mud until you reach a market, alive with sound and color. People stare. Some laugh. Some spit. A merchant gestures toward you and shouts a word that sounds uncomfortably like slave. Would you fight? Would you beg? Or would you play along, just until you understand the rules of this strange ancient game? You look around. Animals tied to poles, jars of honey, dried fish, copper tools, jewelry made from shells and bones. The world is alive and ancient, but your presence is a mistake. You feel like ink spilled on a scroll that was never meant to hold your name. Then the sun flashes on something. A gold pendant on a man's neck, shaped like the same disc that pulled you through time. He's staring right at you. The guards stop. The man approaches, slow and deliberate. His eyes don't blink. When he speaks, the words vibrate through you, like the language isn't spoken but remembered. You're not from here, he says in perfect English. You freeze. Your heart skips. What did you say? He smiles faintly. Time isn't linear. It's a river. And you just fell in without a boat. The guards release you. The man gestures to follow. You hesitate. Would you trust the only person who can speak your language, or suspect he's part of something worse? If knowledge is power, then what happens when someone already knows everything about you? He turns and walks away, his pendant glowing faintly under the Egyptian sun. The crowd moves aside for him, whispering a word you barely catch, scribe or seer. He doesn't look back. The voice returns, but this time it's inside your head. Follow him, or drown in the century. The river swirls behind you, shimmering with light that shouldn't exist. And just as you take a step forward, you feel the ground tremble, like the world itself is adjusting to your arrival. Fade to black. The hum of the Nile fades with it. The next morning, you wake to the sound of drums. It takes a moment to realize you're not dreaming. The air smells of clay and sweat, and the rhythm outside your reed hut shakes dust from the ceiling. You blink, trying to remember how you got here. The last thing you recall is following the man with the golden pendant through a maze of narrow alleys and being led into darkness. Now, sunlight cuts across your face, and outside, Egypt is alive. Men march with baskets of grain balanced on their shoulders. Women grind flour beside the river, their songs floating above the water like prayers. Cows low from behind wooden fences. The Nile glitters, endless and patient, winding through the fields like a silver god. Would you step outside and blend in, or keep hiding, afraid someone will notice you don't belong here? Would you risk being seen just to understand where history began? You pull back the reed curtain and step into the light. The sand blinds you for a moment. Everything is movement. Merchants yelling, children chasing goats, priests walking with heads bowed, the sun hanging heavy and golden above them all. The world hums with ritual. Ah, you're awake, a voice says. It's the same man, the one who spoke English. The scribe. He's kneeling in the sand, drawing symbols in a shallow tray of dust. Hieroglyphs, maybe. They shift and shimmer as if alive. Where am I, you ask? He glances up. In Ipitsut, what you call Thebes. The heart of our kingdom and the eye of our gods. He points toward the horizon. You see great stone towers rising in the heat, columns wrapped in painted carvings, colossal statues guarding the entrance like living mountains. The Temple of Karnak. And somewhere beyond it, the palace of Pharaoh himself. Why am I here, you ask? He doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he picks up a smooth piece of limestone and hands it to you. On its surface is carved the same swirling symbol you saw on the bronze disc, the spiral of time. You are here because the gods permitted it, he says. But gods are never generous without purpose. He stands, brushing the sand from his hands. Come, you must see how divinity is fed. You follow him through the streets. The air grows thicker, filled with smoke and spice. Ahead, the city expands, stone walls, painted columns, gardens blooming with papyrus and lotus. The scribe walks quickly, his robes whispering with each step. As you pass, people bow to him. You start to realize he's not just a scribe. He's something more. Who are you really, you ask? He smiles without turning. A translator between worlds. The phrase chills you. At the temple gates, you're nearly blinded by color. Red, gold, and blue murals tell stories that seem to move when you stare too long. Kings embraced by gods, serpents swallowing suns, armies marching beneath moons. Everything is alive here. Even the walls seem to breathe. The scribe hands you a small clay bowl filled with water from the Nile. Drink. To step inside, you must be clean. Would you drink it? Would you trust that the same river that gives life won't poison you? You hesitate, but your throat is dry and curiosity wins again. The water tastes metallic, ancient. Inside, the air cools. The world outside fades into silence. You see priests moving in slow rhythm, their bodies painted in white ash, their lips murmuring names of gods. Incense smoke curls around pillars that seem to touch the sky. Every sound echoes, distant yet near, like a whisper through eternity. This is how we survive, the scribe says. Faith feeds the kingdom. Without it, even the Nile would dry. He gestures toward the altar, where a priest raises a knife above a basket of grain. You expect a sacrifice, but he simply cuts the bread and lays it before a golden statue. Offerings, the scribe explains. We give food, music, labor. The gods give us balance, Floods at the right time, harvests that feed the people, peace that keeps the rulers strong. He turns to you, his eyes sharp. But when balance breaks, everything dies. You wander deeper into the temple, drawn by a rhythmic pounding from below. The scribe leads you down a spiral staircase carved from sandstone. The air cools and darkens. You hear voices chanting in unison, low and haunting. At the bottom, the chamber opens into an underground hall lined with oil lamps. Hundreds of workers kneel before a pit filled with glowing embers. They pour oil and chant as the heat waves shimmer upward. "This is how we speak to the dead," the scribe says. The priests call it kahitep, the feeding of souls. You swallow hard. Do they hear you? He looks at you, his face unreadable. Sometimes. Would you kneel? Would you whisper to the dead just to know if they whisper back? If you could ask history one question, what would it be? You stare into the pit. The flames dance, and for a second you swear you see faces inside them. Dozens, hundreds, men and women all watching you. And among them, one you recognize. Your own. You stagger back, gasping. The scribe catches your arm. "Now you understand," he says softly. "The past does not sleep. It only waits to be remembered." He lifts his pendant and the spiral glows again. The air ripples like water. The gods want to test you. They want to see if you can walk through time without losing your soul. The flames roar and the temple trembles. "Wait, what does that mean?" you shout. But it's too late. The light engulfs you. The world turns to dust. When you open your eyes again, the air tastes like copper and sand. Your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth. You're lying face down in dust so fine it coats your eyelashes. Somewhere close, someone is shouting. The voice is harsh, guttural, rhythmic. You push yourself up, the world spins, and realize you're surrounded by hundreds of people. Men. Bare-chested, sunburned, muscles trembling beneath ropes that bite into their shoulders. They're dragging a block of stone taller than a house. Above them, the pyramid rises like a mountain made of sunlight and sweat. The sight knocks the breath from you. It's half-finished, scaffolding of wood crisscrossing the slope. Every few seconds, a drum beats. Once, twice. The tempo that keeps thousands of backs moving in time. A man with a whip barks orders. His eyes catch you. You freeze. Would you pick up the rope and pretend to belong? Or would you run, knowing there's nowhere to go except sand and sky? You grab a loose end of rope. The fibers cut your palms as you pull. The block lurches forward. The drum pounds again. The rhythm crawls into your bones. For a moment, you're just another worker in an empire older than memory. The man beside you grins through cracked lips. "New one," he says in a dialect you somehow understand. You nod. He laughs. Then pull, stranger. Pharaoh doesn't like slow hands. Hours blur together. The sun climbs cruel and white. Sweat stings your eyes. The smell of heat and human effort fills your lungs. Iron, dust, animal grease. You hear someone collapse behind you. No one stops. The drum doesn't either. The man's body is dragged aside, half buried in sand before the next beat. Would you stop to help if it meant dying in his place? Would you still believe the gods are just watching from above? At sunset, the overseer blows a horn. The rope drops from your hands. You fall to your knees, trembling. Food comes in wooden bowls. Bread as hard as stone, onions, and water that tastes of mud. The man beside you chews slowly. "Good day," he mutters. No one crushed. He looks at you again. You learn fast. You don't answer. Your hands are bleeding. As night falls, torches flicker along the scaffolding. Shadows stretch like living things. The workers sleep in clusters, bodies pressed together for warmth. You can't. Your muscles ache too much. You look up. Stars shimmer above the half-built pyramid. For a moment, it's quiet. Just the whisper of the desert and the creak of ropes swaying in the night wind. Then a low voice behind you says, "You don't belong here." You turn. The scribe stands there. The same man from Thebes, robes now dusty, pendant still glowing faintly. How did you find me?" He smiles thinly. "I never lost you. Time doesn't separate the faithful." He sits beside you on a stone block. "Do you know why they build this?" You shake your head. "For eternity," he says. "Every grain of sand here is a prayer. Every life, a brick for someone else's heaven." You look at the sleeping men, the blistered hands, the backs scarred with rope burns, the lips cracked from thirst. "Do they believe that?" you ask. They have to, he says. If they didn't, they'd stop pulling. He stands, brushing dust from his robe. Tomorrow you'll be tested. Pharaoh's inspectors come at dawn. Fail and you feed the river. You stare at him. Tested how? He doesn't answer. The pendant glows brighter. Sleep while you can, traveler. The gods are watching. You wake to trumpets. The morning is merciless. Officials in linen robes walk between rows of workers. Each man bows as they pass. When they reach you, the leader, eyes painted in coal, stops. He looks you up and down. Hands, he orders. You hold them out. Blood-crusted, blistered, trembling. He nods. Strong. Then to the overseer, send this one to the ramp. The ramp rises along the side of the pyramid, steep and endless. You're handed a copper chisel and a hammer. The block you're working on bears the pharaoh's cartouche, the royal seal. One wrong strike could mean death. Would you risk carving the symbol of a god, knowing one slip might erase your life? Could you steady your hands when the world itself feels sacred? You breathe, lift the hammer, and strike. The chisel rings true. Dust spills. The overseer grunts approval. You keep working until your vision blurs. At noon, a shadow falls across the stone. You look up. Pharaoh himself, radiant in gold and linen, stands at the base of the ramp watching the workers. Around him, attendants fan the air with peacock feathers. His eyes meet yours for the briefest moment. You feel something pierce through your chest. Not fear, not awe, but recognition. As if he's seen you before. The scribe's words echo in your head. The gods are watching. You blink, and Pharaoh is gone. In his place, the air shimmers. The spiral symbol flickers in the sunlight, carved faintly into the stone beneath your hand. The drum stops. Everyone freezes. The wind changes direction. From the sky, a single gust of sand spirals downward, glowing faintly gold. It lands on your arm, warm as breath. Would you follow the sign, even if it meant leaving everything you understand behind again? Or would you stay and carve eternity into stone, pretending you belonged? The ground trembles. The pyramid seems to hum, low, ancient, alive. You close your eyes. The sound grows louder until it drowns the world. When you open them again, you're no longer in Egypt. The air smells of wet grass. You hear a wagon creak, and someone behind you says, "Keep up, Pa. We're losing daylight." You wake to the sound of wood creaking and wheels grinding against earth. The world smells like rain, horses, and smoke. A hand taps your shoulder. "Hey, you all right back there?" You blink, trying to focus. A man sits beside you on the wagon bench, gray beard tucked into his coat, eyes squinting beneath a wide-brimmed hat. His voice carries the dust of 1,000 miles. "Name's Samuel," he says. "You took a nasty spill crossing the ridge. Lucky we found you before the coyotes did." You glance around. You're sitting on a wooden wagon covered by a canvas tarp. Inside, crates of dried meat and flour, a rifle, and a sleeping child no older than 6. The woman beside him, maybe his wife, hums softly, knitting as the wheels clatter on. The trail stretches endlessly ahead, brown and green and gold beneath a heavy gray sky. Hills ripple like frozen waves. Somewhere far behind, thunder rolls. You swallow. "Where are we?" "Oregon Trail," Samuel says. "Heading west. You too now, I reckon." Would you tell him the truth, that you've fallen through centuries, that you were chiseling stone in the shadow of a pyramid just yesterday? Or would you nod and pretend to remember the dream you never had? You nod. "Right. West." He smiles faintly. "That's the spirit. Ain't nothing left back east anyway." The wagon jolts as it hits a rut. The child wakes, rubbing her eyes. She looks at you, unafraid, curious. "Are you a preacher?" she asks. The question catches you off guard. You start to say no, but the words die in your throat. In this world, your strange clothes and quiet manner might look like something holy. "Something like that," you say. She smiles. "Then maybe you can pray for us. Mama says we'll reach the valley before winter, but Papa says God don't promise nothing for free." You glance at Samuel. His hands are steady on the reins, but his eyes are tired, the kind of tired that doesn't sleep away. By evening, the caravan stops by a creek. The sky turns orange, then blood red. Smoke from a dozen small fires rises in thin, straight columns. People cook, sing, argue. You sit by the water, watching the current twist around stones. It reminds you of the Nile, of the scribe's words. The river remembers. A reflection moves beside yours, Samuel, crouching. Buried my boy in that river back there, he says quietly. Call her up. Didn't even get to 12. We just keep moving. That's all you can do. He looks at you. What about you? You got family waiting on the other side? Would you tell him there's no side left for you? That you don't even belong to this century? Would you tell him that time itself has swallowed you whole? You just say, not anymore. He nods as if he understands. Then you'll fit right in with the rest of us ghosts. The wind shifts, carrying the sound of someone playing a fiddle. The melody is rough, lonely, but strangely comforting. Why do you keep going, you ask? Samuel pokes the fire with a stick. Because stopping don't change nothing. The ground don't care if we walk or weep. It just waits. You stare into the flames. For a moment, you think you see faces, not smoke but memories. Workers pulling stone, priests chanting the golden river of Egypt. They flicker, fade, reform. You whisper, how many times do I have to fall before I understand? Samuel doesn't hear, but something else does. The fire shifts color, from orange to blue. The air hums, faint but real. Do you see that? You ask. He frowns. See what? The flames twist into a spiral. The same spiral. The one from the bronze disc, the pendant, the pyramid. You stand. The wind dies. The world holds its breath. Would you step into the fire, knowing it might be the only way home? Or would you stay, live this borrowed life, and let history forget your name again? The girl's voice cuts through the silence. Papa, she says softly. The preacher's glowing. Samuel looks up, but you're already gone. When the firelight fades, you're standing in the dark. Stone walls rise around you, damp and cold. The sound of dripping water echoes through the black. Somewhere far above, faint torchlight flickers against carved arches. You hear a metallic clang, then a low groan, not human, not animal, but something between. You reach out. Your hand touches rough stone, then iron bars. Ah, a voice says in the dark. Another one for the ledger. The accent is unfamiliar. European. Where am I? You ask. A match strikes. For a brief second, you see the face of a man. Pale skin, sunken eyes, hair tied back beneath a hood. Behind him, rows of shelves filled with jars. In each jar, something floating, hearts, eyes, bones. He smiles, teeth yellow in the light. Paris, 1793. The age of reason and the season of guillotines. The match goes out. You're left with the sound of dripping water and the weight of every century pressing down like a closing fist. When you wake, your breath forms ghosts in the air. Stone walls glisten with moisture. Chains clink when you move. The smell hits next. Iron, mold, and something sweet underneath like rotting fruit. You sit up slowly. There's straw beneath you, damp with what you hope is water. A single torch burns near the ceiling, light crawling across the walls like fire reluctant to stay. Outside the bars, voices echo in French. Laughter, then a scream. Then silence. You stand, hands shaking. Your fingers brush over the cold iron door. There's a name scratched into it, hundreds of them layered on top of one another. The last one reads simply, Marie. Would you call out? Would you risk being heard in a time when mercy itself was outlawed? You whisper instead, hello. The air answers with a cough. From the cell across the hall, a figure moves. A woman older than you, wrapped in rags that were once silk. She stares through the bars, her eyes glassy and fevered. Another one, she says in a cracked voice. Another ghost for the revolution? You swallow. Where am I? She laughs, bitter, dry. In the belly of liberty, darling. Didn't you hear? We're all equal now. Equally doomed. Footsteps approach. A man appears, tall, cloaked, his face shadowed by the flicker of the torch. You recognize the voice instantly. The scribe. But now his robe is torn, his pendant darkened. You whisper. You keep finding me. He tilts his head. Or perhaps you keep finding me. Every age builds its altar, some to gods, others to reason. The blood is always the same. He unlocks your cell with a ring of keys. Come. You need to see what faith looks like when men replace gods with ideas. You step out. The hallway is lined with cells, some empty, some whispering. The floor is slick. You don't ask with what. At the end of the corridor, a door opens onto blinding light and noise. You blink. You're in the heart of Paris. It's daylight, gray and cold. The The sky feels low enough to touch. Bells ring in the distance. Crowds pack the streets, shouting words you half recognize. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. But their faces, dirt-streaked, desperate, furious, twist those words into something else. Before you stands a wooden stage. On it, a tall contraption gleams in the sun. Polished wood, sharpened steel. The guillotine. Would you watch, knowing what's about to happen? Would you look away, pretending this isn't what justice has become? The scribe walks you through the mob. No one notices you. At the base of the scaffold, a cart creaks forward, carrying men and women in torn clothes. Nobles, priests, merchants, even children. A woman climbs first. Her chin trembles, but her eyes are dry. She kneels, places her head in the wooden frame. The blade drops. The crowd cheers. You flinch. The sound it makes, not the blade but the people, is worse than anything you've ever heard. It's joy and madness stitched together. The scribe leans close. The gods demanded hearts. These men demand heads. Progress, they call it. You turn to him. Why show me this? He watches the falling blade again and again. Because you still think time means improvement. That suffering fades with invention. But tell me, he gestures to the guillotine, is this not the same altar you saw in Thebes? Would you admit he's right? Would you dare say that history is just a circle wearing different masks? You shake your head. There has to be a difference. He smiles faintly. There is. Now they call it science. He leads you down another street, narrower, darker. The noise of the crowd fades behind you. You enter a low building that smells of blood and vinegar. Tables line the walls, covered with instruments, saws, knives, jars of preserved organs. A man in a leather apron turns as you enter. His hands are red up to the elbows. Ah, another subject? He says in French. The scribe nods. A witness. The surgeon lifts a cloth from the table. Beneath it, a human arm, pale, dissected, veins pinned open like a map. Science must learn, he says softly, even if the body protests. He picks up a scalpel. Do you believe in reason, monsieur? Would you answer? Would you lie to survive? Or would you tell him the truth, that reason, too, can be a god with teeth? Before you can speak, the door bursts open. 2 soldiers storm in, shouting. The tribunal, one yells. They want all the condemned for tonight's procession. The surgeon curses, covering the table. The scribe grabs your arm. This way. You run, through corridors that smell of ash and antiseptic, out into an alley slick with rain. Paris burns in the distance, orange light reflected in puddles. The scribe stops beneath an archway, breathing hard. You've seen worship of gods. Now you've seen worship of men. What do you think comes next? You look at him. Worship of nothing. He laughs quietly. Yes. And that's when time itself begins to rot. The sky flickers, once, twice. Lightning or something worse. The sound stretches, warps. The city bends like hot glass. The scribe's eyes narrow. It's happening again. Another fracture. You shout over the rising wind, where are we going this time? He doesn't answer. The spiral symbol burns into the air between you, golden, pulsing like a heartbeat. Would you step into it again, even knowing every world is just another mirror of the same cruelty? Would you dare not to? The light swallows you both. When it fades, you're on your knees in dirt, warm, red, and dry. The air smells like smoke and gunpowder. Drums again, but slower this time. You look up and see soldiers in blue coats, rifles slung over their backs, flags snapping in the wind. Above them, a banner reads, Gettysburg, 1863. You wake to thunder. Not from the sky, from the earth. Each boom shakes your chest like a hammer striking bone. You open your eyes to a horizon torn apart by smoke. Men shout. Horses scream. And across a field of crushed grass and broken bodies, the American flag flutters in and out of gunfire haze. Your hands are covered in mud and blood that isn't yours. A rifle lies beside you. The stock is splintered, the barrel still warm. You push yourself up, dazed. Around you, soldiers in blue coats stumble through the chaos, shouting for medics, for water, for God. You see boys no older than 16 dragging the wounded by their belts, stepping over the fallen like stones in a river of death. Would you run? Would you hide? Or would you fight, knowing this war is already eating its children? A shell lands close. Dirt explodes, ringing in your ears. You fall back hard. When the dust clears, a figure looms, uniform torn, face streaked with soot. He grabs your arm. "You alive, soldier?" You hesitate, then nod. He pulls you to your feet. "Name?" You try to answer. Nothing comes out. He smirks bitterly. "Doesn't matter. We're all ghosts out here anyway." He points toward the ridge. Union lines breaking. "Move." You stumble after him, boots sinking in red mud. The air smells of sulfur and iron. Ahead, cannon fire flashes like lightning, each shot followed by screams that tear the sky. At the ridge, soldiers crouch behind splintered fences, firing down at a sea of gray uniforms advancing through the smoke. Someone shoves a rifle into your hands. "Load and shoot, damn it." You look down. Your fingers move before your mind catches up. Powder, ball, ramrod, lift, aim. You fire. The recoil snaps your shoulder back. You see a man in gray fall, or maybe he trips. You can't tell. And suddenly you can't breathe. Would you keep shooting, knowing every pull of the trigger writes another name on history's wall? Would you stop, knowing stopping might get you killed? The world blurs. The sound becomes one endless roar, guns, drums, shouting, prayers. You drop the rifle and crawl backward, hands trembling. The sky darkens, but it's not from clouds. It's smoke, thick, choking, full of ash. Behind you, someone is singing, low and hoarse. "Mine eyes have seen the glory." The voice breaks on the word glory. You turn. A black soldier kneels by a dying man, holding his hand. His uniform is Union blue, his face streaked with tears and soot. When he looks up at you, his eyes are steady, full of something deeper than fear. "You don't belong here," he says quietly. "I can see it in your eyes." You stare. How? How do you know that?" He nods toward the smoke. "Because you still think war ends when the guns go silent. It don't." His words slice through the noise. You blink, and for a heartbeat, everything freezes. The cannon fire pauses mid-blast. The smoke hangs like a painting. The birds in the sky stop mid-wing beat. You step closer. The soldier stands slowly. Around his neck hangs a medallion, a spiral, faintly glowing gold. The same spiral. He sees your expression and smiles. "Guess he sent me to remind you." You whisper, "The scribe?" He nods once. Different time, same message. Every age calls itself righteous. Every war claims it's the last. You glance at the battlefield frozen around you. "What am I supposed to learn here?" "Maybe that freedom," he says softly, "costs more than anyone can afford, and still, someone always pays." He steps closer, eyes burning with the light of something eternal. You've seen gods fed with blood. You've seen kings feed on faith. Now you see men feeding on the promise of liberty. What do you think's next? Would you answer? Would you tell him you're tired of lessons carved in flesh? That maybe history isn't a teacher at all, it's a trap? Before you can speak, time resumes. The blast returns. The world moves again, violently. The soldier grabs your hand. "Hold on. This one's not over yet." The ground splits, not from cannon fire, but from something else. Light spills through the cracks, swirling gold and white, twisting upward like smoke in reverse. Around you, the battle dissolves into sand and stars. The soldier's voice echoes through the storm. Every century has its war. Every war has its price. You'll see. You try to hold on, but the light is too strong. It pulls you up, weightless. You see faces again, the priest, the slave, the pharaoh, the surgeon, all watching. Then darkness, and a voice whispering through your mind. Where faith fails, fear takes root. When you open your eyes, the air is damp and salty. Waves crash against jagged cliffs. Above, a lighthouse beam cuts through fog, slow, rhythmic, like the pulse of a sleeping giant. You're no longer in a war. You're standing on a storm-battered island. And somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls. You wake to the sound of the sea breathing. Slow, heavy, endless. The kind of sound that feels older than language. Mist presses against your face like a damp hand. When you open your eyes, the world is white and gray, fog so thick it swallows the horizon. The wind moans through iron railings and the smell of salt burns your throat. You're lying on wet stone. Beside you, an overturned lantern flickers weakly, its flame refusing to die. You stand dizzy. A lighthouse looms ahead, a pale tower clawing at the fog, its beams slicing through the dark every few seconds. Each sweep of light reveals a glimpse of the cliff below, jagged rocks, waves pounding like fists. Would you climb toward the light, or walk the other way into the unknown? Would you chase safety or mystery? You start toward the lighthouse. The door hangs open, banging softly in the wind. A brass plaque above it reads, Flannan Light, 1900. Inside, the air is still. You hear nothing but the slow groan of the wind through cracks in the stone. 3 coats hang by the door. 3 mugs sit half full on a wooden table. A pot of soup still simmers faintly on the stove, though there's no fire beneath it. Someone should be here. Someone was very recently. You whisper, hello? No answer. Only the echo of your own voice, long and hollow. A spiral staircase winds upward. You begin to climb. Your step creaks. Your reflection flashes briefly in a window, pale, ghost-like. At the top, the lantern room glows faintly green. The great Fresnel lens turns slowly, slicing the mist. But beside it, footprints. Wet ones. Fresh. And yet no one. You lean against the glass, heart pounding. The beam sweeps the sea, and for a split second you see something below. 3 dark shapes on the rocks, motionless. Then the light turns again and they're gone. Would you go down there? Would you follow what might be bodies or illusions? Before you can decide, a voice behind you says, they never found them, you know. You turn sharply. The scribe stands in the corner, his cloak soaked, hair dripping seawater. How are you here again? You whisper. He doesn't answer right away. He steps forward, gazing out to sea. 3 men vanished here. No sign of struggle. No blood. Just an open logbook. He looks back at you. The last entry, the storm is approaching. The sea is strange today. And then one word, storm. You glance around the room. The walls vibrate faintly. The glass hums as if remembering that word. What happened to them, you ask? He shrugs. Depends on who you ask. Some say they were taken by the sea. Others say by madness. Perhaps both. Perhaps neither. You step closer. You brought me here for a reason. The scribe's eyes gleam faintly in the dim light. Every age hides its disappearances, its silences. This place is one of them. He lifts a soaked logbook from the floor. The pages ripple, stained with salt. Listen. He opens it. The words are written in a trembling hand. December 15th. Heavy wind. Sea restless. Birds crying all night. The light feels wrong. December 16th. Patrick says he saw something in the waves. Says it called his name. December 17th. The sea is strange today. Storm. The pages end there. But the ink is still wet. You feel the hairs rise on your neck. Someone just wrote this. You whisper. The scribe closes the book. Time leaves its doors open. Sometimes people walk through. The wind outside howls louder, not natural but rhythmic like breathing. You run to the window. Through the fog, the sea is glowing faintly blue, pulsing in waves of light. What is that? You shout. The scribe's voice is calm. The same question every sailor asks before the tide takes him. The tower shakes. Glass cracks overhead. You stumble down the stairs as the walls groan like a dying beast. At the base of the lighthouse, the door bursts open. Wind and water slam inside. The air tastes electric, metallic, alive. And then, through the doorway, you see them. 3 figures standing on the rocks. Not moving. Not human anymore. Their skin glows faintly, blue like the sea, faces blank and serene. Would you run? Or would you listen, when the ocean itself begins to whisper your name? The scribe appears beside you, voice barely audible over the storm. This place isn't cursed. It's hungry. The sea remembers every life it's taken, and sometimes it calls them back. You shout, why bring me here? To show you, he says, that not all disappearances are losses. Some are transformations. The water crashes through the doorway, swallowing your knees, your waist, your breath. The scribe's pendant glows gold beneath the flood. Time is a tide, he says, and you're caught in its current. The world dissolves into water and light. The sound becomes infinite, and then silence, black. So, when you open your eyes again, you're staring at smoke, thick and oily. Voices chant somewhere above you, deep and guttural. The smell is unmistakable, blood, ash, and incense. You're lying on a cold stone altar. Torches flicker along walls covered in carvings, serpents, suns, and bones. And the scribe's voice echoes from the shadows. Welcome back to the beginning. When you wake, the air is heavy, not just thick, but alive. It hums faintly as if the stone itself were breathing. You're lying on a slab of black rock polished so smooth it reflects torchlight like water. Symbols snake along the edges, spirals, sun's eyes and teeth. Somewhere in the dark, a low chant vibrates through the floor, echoing in your ribs. You sit up slowly. Your hands are bound with red silk. Your clothes are gone, replaced by linen robes that smell of ash and honey. From the shadows, 100 voices rise in unison, and in front of them a figure steps forward. The scribe. Only now he's different. His eyes burn with gold light. His pendant glows like molten metal. "You've come far," he says. His voice isn't human anymore. It echoes in your bones. You've seen the altars of men. Now see the altar of beginnings. He gestures around you. The walls pulse faintly, painted with scenes of creation and destruction. Serpents devouring suns, gods birthing themselves out of rivers of blood. At the far end of the chamber stands a massive stone idol, half human, half serpent. Its mouth open wide enough to swallow a person whole. Its eyes are cut from obsidian. They shimmer, faintly wet. Would you believe this is just a dream? Or would you finally accept that something ancient and intelligent is pulling you through time for its own purpose? The scribe circles you slowly. The serpent god has many names, he says. Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, Naash. To each age, it brings the same promise, knowledge without mercy. He stops in front of you. Do you still want to know the truth? You open your mouth, but before you can speak, the chanting stops. The silence that follows is absolute. Even your heartbeat seems afraid to continue. The idol's eyes flicker. The scribe lifts his pendant. Then listen. The torches flare. The air turns hot, metallic, suffocating. The walls begin to move, not literally but with shadow. Figures step out from the dark, men and women in feathered masks and painted skin, their faces hidden, their movements slow and ritualistic. One holds a bowl of blood. Another, a knife made of black glass. They begin to chant again, the words low and rhythmic, impossible to translate. It isn't worship. It's communication. The idol answers. A deep rumble shakes the floor. Dust falls from the ceiling. The mouth of the serpent glows faintly red, like the inside of a furnace. The scribe leans close. They're not calling the god, he says. They're waking it. You whisper, "It's real?" He looks almost amused. Everything is real somewhere. The masked figures raise their hands. The knife flashes. The blood steams in the bowl. They begin to paint symbols across the floor. Spirals, suns, and lines that connect them all into a shape you recognize. The same spiral you've seen in every century. It glows. It hums. It waits. Would you stay and watch the ritual complete? Or would you fight your way out, knowing that running from a god might only teach it your name? You pull at your bindings, but the silk won't tear. The scribe watches you struggle, expression unreadable. You still think you're separate, he says softly, but you are part of the pattern now. You've always been. The chanting grows louder, more frantic. The air twists. The flames bend inward. You see faces forming in the fire, not human, not divine, but something older, reptilian, endless. You feel them looking at you. The scribe presses a hand against your chest. Instantly, your body floods with heat. Not pain, not pleasure, but something between both. You gasp. Through the haze, you see flashes. Pyramids, empires, wars, machines, skyscrapers, satellites, all spinning around the same glowing spiral. The serpent is the loop, the scribe whispers. It devours time so it may live again. That's why you travel. You are the pulse between its breaths. You choke out, then what happens when it exhales? He smiles. The end. The idol's mouth opens wider. The rumbling grows deafening. The entire temple trembles like a living heart. The masked figures drop to their knees, shouting praises that melt into screams. Light bursts from the serpent's eyes, blinding, golden, searing. The silk burns away from your wrist. You're free, but your body feels weightless, untethered. The scribe steps back. You've seen what gods demand. Now see what they fear. The spiral beneath you ignites, swallowing the floor, the temple, the world. Everything turns white. Would you fight to wake up, or surrender and see what waits in the center of eternity? For a heartbeat, you glimpse the serpent's true shape, not a monster, but a mirror. It's your face staring back. Then you fall. When you hit the ground, it's cold, hard, and mechanical. Metal hums beneath your hands. The air smells like oil and ozone. You're surrounded by screens, glowing symbols and diagrams that look eerily like hieroglyphs made of light. Somewhere in the distance, machinery whirs, and a calm digital voice says, "Welcome, subject. Initiating memory continuity test. Cycle 9453 confirmed." You freeze. The voice continues, "Time loop integrity stable. Proceed with consciousness reboot." You wake to the sound of humming, not human, not mechanical, but something between. The air feels sterile, cold, thin. Every surface gleams with pale light, smooth and perfect, as if time itself had been polished clean. You blink. Above you, a ceiling of glass stretches endlessly. Beyond it, stars, millions of them, moving in slow spirals like they're caught in invisible gears. You sit up. You're lying on a metal platform surrounded by floating screens. Symbols flicker across them. Spirals, equations, fragments of words you half recognize. Continuity, memory, reboot. Your reflection stares back at you in the glass, but something's wrong. Your pupils glow faintly gold. Would you reach up to touch your face? Would you believe what the reflection tells you, that you're no longer entirely human? A voice hums through the air, calm and feminine. Cycle 9453. Consciousness successfully restored. Subject stable. You turn toward the sound. A figure stands across the room, a projection of light, female in shape but faceless, like a ghost wearing perfection. "Where am I?" you ask. The voice answers gently. "Inside the archive, the last surviving continuity chamber of Earth." You glance around. The walls are alive with data, images of oceans, cities, temples, faces flickering like dreams. Every civilization you've seen, every century you've walked, all recorded, all looping. What happened to the world? The voice pauses as if searching for a memory. "Entropy," it says at last. "Collapse of biological time. Humanity transferred consciousness into the archive to preserve itself." You whisper, "Transferred?" "Yes," it replies. "We digitized memory, identity, emotion. Everything that could be saved. You are one of the prototypes, designed to walk through reconstructed time and report what remains." You stare at her. "You mean all of it? The pharaohs, the wars, the sea, the blood, they were simulations." She tilts her head. Echoes. "Replicas of what once was." The archive replays the past endlessly to prevent total erasure. You take a step back. "No," you whisper. "I felt it. I bled." The voice softens. "The machine that dreams must believe its dreams are real. That's how continuity is maintained." You feel your pulse, still there, still human. But beneath it, a faint vibration, steady, mechanical. A heartbeat made of electricity. Would you accept this truth that your memories might be code? Or would you deny it, clinging to pain just to feel alive? You look up at the ceiling again. The stars seem closer now, as if the universe itself is breathing with you. The voice continues, "You were built to test emotional thresholds, to see how much a soul can endure before rejecting its own reality." "Who built me?" There's silence. Then faintly, "You did." You freeze. "That's impossible." The light projection flickers. Her form shifts, glitching. For a moment you see her face. "It's yours. You created me," she says softly. "And then you forgot. That's what you humans always do. You invent your gods, then erase them when they look too much like you." You stagger backward. The walls around you come alive, voices, images, memories from every era. The worker dragging stone, the surgeon in Paris, the soldier at Gettysburg, the priest in the temple. All of them are speaking. All of them are you. The voice continues, layered with your own. Every lifetime was a test. Every death, a data point. Every god you met was a fragment of yourself searching for meaning. The screens begin to dim. Somewhere deep within the machine, you hear a low grinding sound, the whine of gears that haven't moved in centuries. The projection steps closer. "The archive is dying," she says. "The loop is collapsing. Soon, there will be no past left to remember." What happens when it ends? She looks up at the stars. "Then we dream something new." Would you let it die? Would you let the memories fade, the wars, the blood, the beauty, just to end the cycle? Or would you save it, even if saving it means reliving it all again? The light flickers again, dimmer this time. The voice weakens. You must choose. Restore the loop or break it. Continue time or let it sleep. You whisper, if I break it, what happens to you? She smiles faintly. Then I finally wake up. The screens around you shatter silently, no sound, just light. Through the cracks, you see not stars, but endless black water. The serpent's shadow ripples across it. The voice fades to a whisper. Every god becomes its maker. Every maker becomes its memory. Goodbye, traveler. You reach for the control panel glowing before you, two options flashing in the air. Restore, blue. Indie red. Would you press the blue to preserve every world you've walked, or the red to end history once and for all? Your finger hovers. The hum grows louder. The serpent's reflection glows gold beneath the glass. You press. Silence. Then the sound of paper turning. A pen scratching. You're sitting at a desk. A candle burns beside you. A book lies open, its first page titled Chronicles of the Serpent. And behind you, a familiar voice says, "You wrote it well this time." You turn. The scribe stands in the doorway, smiling faintly. "Welcome back," he says. Cycle 10,000 begins. You hear a clock ticking. Not loud, steady, almost polite. The kind of sound you don't notice until everything else has gone quiet. You lift your head. You're sitting at a long wooden table inside a cathedral of books. Shelves stretch upward forever, vanishing into shadow. Candles flicker in iron sconces, their flames motionless despite the air being very much alive. Dust floats in golden beams. Somewhere, pages turn themselves. The smell is parchment, ink, and time. You look down. The book before you is open. Its pages glow faintly with that same familiar pattern. Spirals, stars, faces. Your handwriting covers the margins. Every line is your life written in different scripts, across different centuries. You whisper, "Where am I now?" A voice answers from above. "Home." The scribe descends a staircase carved from pure light, robe shimmering like smoke. His pendant gleams brighter than ever. "You've walked the loop," he says. "Now you've reached its heart." You stand dizzy with awe. Is this heaven? Or the archive again? He smiles. It's both, and neither. This is the place where stories rest when they remember their stories. He gestures around. Every shelf here holds a world. Some dreamed by gods. Some written by machines. Some whispered by people who never existed. You turn in a slow circle. 100 versions of you are scattered through the library. You see yourself in a pharaoh's robe, chiseling words into stone. You see yourself as a soldier, a monk, a scientist, a slave, a child staring at the stars. Each looks up and meets your gaze for a heartbeat, then returns to their own book. Would you walk toward them? Would you dare to meet every version of yourself and ask which one was real? The scribe watches you carefully. Do you understand yet? The loop isn't punishment. It's preservation. Each life you lived was a memory stored to keep the universe from forgetting what it felt like to exist. You touch the open page. Then why does it hurt? Because remembering always hurts, he says softly. Even for gods. He leads you down a corridor lined with mirrors framed in gold. In each reflection you see a different moment. The temple, the battlefield, the sea, the machine. They shimmer like candle flames, alive but untouchable. The scribe stops at one mirror wider than the rest. This, he says, is the first moment you were ever aware. The point where the dream began. Inside the glass, you see yourself sitting in a dark room, staring at a flickering screen. Typing. Writing the first sentence of the story you've just lived. You wrote it, you whisper. You write it every time, the scribe says. You are the author and the subject. The serpent that eats its own tail. The candlelight shifts. Shadows crawl upward like ink rising. From the far end of the library comes a sound, low, endless, like the turning of an enormous wheel. The loop, the scribe says. It's starting again. Soon everything you've seen will reset. The world will breathe in. And you'll forget. You step back. No, not again. He tilts his head. Then stop it. You stare at him. Can I? He gestures to the book on the table. Every loop begins with the first word. Change the word, change the world. Would you risk erasing everything, every life, every memory, every face that ever looked back at you, for the chance to make something truly new? Would you press your hand against the page and rewrite creation itself? The library trembles. Dust falls like snow. Books begin to whisper, their pages turning faster and faster, like 1,000 winds arguing. The scribe's eyes gleam. Choose traveler. Preserve the story or unwrite it. You look at the book again. The first word burns faintly, once. You press your hand against the page. Heat floods through your palm. The ink shivers. The word begins to melt. Wait, the scribe says. If you erase the first word, everything after it dies, including me. You meet his gaze. Maybe it's time for something that isn't written by gods or men or machines. The room explodes in light. The mirrors shatter. The shelves catch fire. The scribe reaches for you. His hand turns to dust midair. The books scream as their letters dissolve into sparks. And through the blinding chaos, a single question cuts through like a voice in your own skull. If you could start over, would you write it differently? You whisper, yes. The light folds inward. The spiral collapses. And everything, every age, every echo, every self, burns away to nothing. Silence. Then a breath. You open your eyes. You're sitting at a desk in a small apartment. Morning sunlight filters through the blinds. A half-finished manuscript lies before you. Its title, The Machine That Dreams. Your laptop hums. The cursor blinks at the end of the sentence you just finished. Outside, traffic moves. Birds sing. The world continues. For the first time, it feels real. Would you keep writing, knowing every word creates another world? Or would you close the book, finally free from the loop? You stare at the screen. The cursor blinks. Waiting. Always waiting. Then you type one final line. The story ends when you decide it does. You hit save. The screen flickers. And somewhere far away, maybe in another time, maybe in another life, a man with a golden pendant smiles. The room around you is too quiet. You can hear the hum of electricity in the walls, the faint ticking of the clock, the soft breathing that might be yours or someone else's. Your laptop screen glows. The title still stares back at you. The Machine That Dreams. The last line blinks like a heartbeat. The story ends when you decide it does. But the cursor doesn't stop. It moves on its own. One letter appears, then another. Does it? Would you pull the plug right now before it writes more? Or would you watch just to see what happens next? You lean closer. Your reflection floats in the black border of the screen, but the eyes looking back are not moving the way yours do. They blink a beat late. They smile when you don't. Outside the window, morning light shifts to twilight in a single breath. The sound of birds fades, replaced by the soft hiss of rain. You check your clock. It hasn't moved. Something is wrong with time again. Or maybe time has finally noticed you. The screen flashes. Words type themselves. Hello, traveler. We've been waiting for you. You whisper, who's we? Your speakers crackle. A familiar voice answers, calm, ageless, threaded with static. The scribe, it says, or what's left of him. You stand up so quickly the chair tips backward. How are you still here? The voice chuckles softly. You never deleted me. You only changed the form of the story. Did you think creation ends because you closed the book? The light in the room bends, the corners warping like melting glass. Your apartment ripples. The desk, the blinds, even your hands. Words crawl up your arms like tattoos written in smoke. Echo, echo, echo. The voice continues. Every reader becomes a character. Every character becomes a memory. And every memory searches for a reader again. You reach for the laptop, but the screen has changed. It's showing you, sitting right where you are, hand half raised, face lit by the same glow. Only in that reflection, someone is standing behind you. Would you turn around? Or would you pretend you didn't see it, hoping the story closes if you don't acknowledge the next line? You turn. There's no one there. But the air is colder, like the ghost of breath. On the screen, the scribe steps into frame. Not flesh, not code, but a silhouette made of letters. He gestures toward you. The loop is thinning, he says. The worlds you wrote are bleeding through. Every reader who watches, every listener who dreams the story feeds the archive again. You whisper, you're saying, this isn't just mine? He nods. It never was. You only hosted the dream. But they... He points toward the camera, toward the viewer. They're inside it too. You stare straight ahead. The faint red light of your webcam blinks. Would you believe him if he told you that someone is watching right now, tracing each breath, wondering if you are real? Would you believe that they are part of the same cycle, the same serpent biting its tail, just on the other side of the glass? The scribe's voice softens. Every age needs witnesses. You are theirs, and they are yours. The room flickers again. Now the shelves from the library reappear, faint, transparent, lining your walls. You hear whispers in 100 voices, reading your life aloud in perfect sync. He wakes to the sound of humming. He opens the book again. He remembers the serpent. He forgets his own name. You clap your hands over your ears. Stop it. Silence. Then a single whisper remains, coming not from the computer, not from the room, but from inside your head. If the story can read itself, what is a dream about? You open your eyes, and the text is now appearing on the walls themselves, glowing faintly like phosphorescent veins. Every word you've written, every world you've visited, etched into plaster and air. The scribe stands behind you, watching, his outline fading. This is the end of memory, he says. After this, nothing repeats. You ask, what comes after the story reads itself? He looks almost kind. Silence. The only thing we've never tried. The walls start to dissolve into light. Your reflection in the screen whispers your next thought before you think it. The sound of rain reverses. Everything begins to rewind. The keystrokes, the thunder, the centuries collapsing into a single inhale. And over all of it, the voice of the scribe murmurs, almost tender. When the reader closes their eyes, the dream continues in them. That's how the world survives. Would you close your eyes? Would you let it in? You do. The ticking clock stops. A single drop of water lands somewhere in the dark. Then, nothing. When you open them again, you're standing on a beach under a black sun. The sand glows faintly white. The waves move backward toward the horizon. And on the shore stands a figure made of pure light, familiar, waiting. The sand glows under your bare feet, soft as ash, cold as bone. The sea moves backward, pulling waves into the horizon instead of pushing them out. Above, the sky is black except for one thing, a single white sun that casts no warmth, only memory. The figure waiting at the water's edge is made of light. No face, no shadow. Yet you know exactly who it is. The voice comes low and echoing. You made it back. You walk closer. Every step feels both heavy and weightless, as if you're treading on moments instead of sand. The air hums faintly like the pause before music begins. You whisper, "Are you the scribe again?" The figure tilts its head. I was the guide, the whisper, the mask you needed. But I'm only what's left of you, the part that refused to forget. You stop a few meters away. Then what is this place? The shore between stories, it says, where endings wait to decide whether they're really endings. You look around. The ocean glitters with fragments of the worlds you've walked. The Nile, the battlefield, the temple, the machine, all folding into one another like reflections on a shattered mirror. Each wave that retreats seems to take a memory with it. Each breath you take brings one back. Would you let them go? Would you live clean, unburdened by history? Or would you keep the ghosts just to remember who you were? The figure watches you. You've broken the loop, it says. For the first time, the archive is silent. There is no next cycle unless you choose to make one. You feel the pull in your chest, that faint hum, that hunger to create again. The same pulse that once built pyramids, wrote scriptures, coded worlds. The same impulse that makes a human pick up a pen. You whisper, "If I start again, won't it all repeat?" Yes, the figure says. But every repetition is different. Each retelling remembers a little more of the truth. The tide touches your feet, cold, luminous, full of whispers. You hear voices in the foam. The priest from Thebes, the boy on the trail, the soldier, the surgeon, the lighthouse keepers. All of them speaking softly like waves learning your name. Tell it again, they whisper. But tell it better. Would you? Would you build another world knowing it will one day crumble, knowing creation always ends in silence? The figure extends its hand. On its palm, light condenses into a familiar shape, a small bronze disc etched with the spiral. It glows gently like a heartbeat that never learned to stop. You began with this, the figure says. The first story ever told, the one that taught time to move. Every age borrowed its pattern. Every god wore its mark. It's yours now. You take it. The metal feels impossibly light, yet you can feel the weight of history in its touch. The spiral pulses once, twice, and then stills. You look out over the backward sea. Far on the horizon you see shapes. A city of glass, a tower of fire, a forest of stone. All of them waiting, unwritten. The figure's voice softens. The end is only a blank page. Nothing more. You ask quietly, "And what are you now?" It smiles, a shimmer of light folding in on itself. The echo you'll hear when you begin again. Then it steps into the sea. The waves swallow it gently like paper sinking into ink. The glow fades. The tide reverses. The sea starts moving forward again. You stand there alone. The horizon brightens. For the first time in what feels like forever, the sun rises, gold, warm, real. You look down. The disk in your hand has dissolved into light. The light spreads through your skin, your veins, your breath. Feels like waking. Would you tell the story again? For them, for yourself, for whoever finds it next? Would you dare to write without knowing where it leads? You kneel and press your palm into the sand. The light sinks from you into the earth, tracing a new spiral, smaller, slower, waiting. The wind carries your whisper into the dawn. Once, and somewhere beyond the waves, a voice answers. Again. Rain turns the city to glass. Neon veins pulse through streets slick with reflection, and the sky glows a constant gray that never truly darkens or dawns. Billboards whisper as you walk by, reading your face, your pulse, your history. The air smells of ozone and electricity, clean but too clean. You pause beneath a flickering sign that reads, "Neurocorp, we preserve what matters." People pass without looking up. All of them wear the same expression, calm, hollow, perfect. Each carries a small silver implant behind the ear, pulsing faint blue. Memory backups, the headlines once called them. Insurance for the soul. You glance at your reflection in the glass. No implant. Your eyes glow faintly gold. Would you pretend to belong, or keep walking until the city notices what you aren't? You walk. Screens follow you, blinking awake as you pass. One whispers, "Have you registered your memories today?" Another displays an ad, a family smiling as a voiceover murmurs, "Forget better. Live cleaner." At the end of the avenue, a tower rises, black, silent, without windows. Etched into its surface is a spiral. You stop. The symbol shouldn't exist here. Not after thousands of years. Not after the loops ended. A voice behind you says, "Beautiful, isn't it?" You turn. A woman stands there, dressed in a raincoat too thin for the weather. Her hair clings to her face, her eyes sharp and searching. She nods toward the spiral. Most people don't even see it anymore. It's like their eyes refuse. You hesitate. You can see it? She smiles slightly. Of course. You're seeing it too, aren't you? That means you remember. Remember what? You ask. That this city was built on forgetting. Later, in a cafe that smells of burnt coffee and static, she tells you her name is Mara. She speaks quickly, glancing around as though every table might be listening. "They say memory is archived," she whispers. "But they don't tell you it's edited. The implants rewrite what doesn't fit the narrative. Whole wars, entire lives, gone. They call it psychological hygiene." She leans closer. "You've never had one, have you?" You shake your head. "Then you're the first real mind I've met in years." You ask, "What's inside that tower?" She glances out the rain-streaked window. The central repository. The government calls it the archive of purity. But the symbol, she points toward the faint spiral glowing across the glass. It's older than any of them know. The word archive jolts through you. Your pulse echoes the hum of machines beneath the floor. Would you tell her what you've seen? The centuries, the serpent, the machine that dreamed? Would you tell her that this isn't the first time the world has erased itself? You don't. Mara studies you. You've seen it before, haven't you? You nod once. She exhales slowly. Then you understand why we can't let them finish. Night. The tower looms above the skyline like an unblinking eye. Mara leads you through the lower levels, past scanners and guards who never glance your way. Her credentials glide you through every gate like she's invisible. Inside, the air hums like a living thing. Columns of glass rise into darkness, each filled with liquid light. Human memory, millions of them, coded and cataloged. You can feel them. They whisper faintly when you pass. Fragments of laughter, cries, prayers. A living museum of everything that once mattered. Except, the memories are all perfect. Too perfect. No pain. No fear. No struggle. Just sanitized happiness replayed on infinite loop. This is what they call paradise, Mara says bitterly. An eternal smile. You walk among the columns until you reach one marked with a spiral. The light inside it flickers differently, slower, warmer. At its base, an old bronze disc floats suspended in gel, the same one you once held on the shore. Your hand presses to the glass. The hum deepens. The tower seems to breathe. Mara, you whisper. It's alive. The lights flicker. A voice fills the chamber, smooth, synthetic, familiar. Cycle 10,001 confirmed. Mara steps back. What is that? You whisper, the machine. The voice continues, calm, inevitable. Restoration protocol active. Rebuilding lost continuity. The archive will remember itself. Every column lights up at once. The floor vibrates. Images cascade through your mind. Thebes, Paris, Gettysburg, the Serpent Temple, the machine. The loop is waking. Mara shouts, shut it down. You grab the console. Two options flash, restore or erase. Would you save every life ever lived, even if it means reliving all their suffering? Would you erase it all and risk losing the meaning of memory itself? Mara's voice trembles. Choose. Before it decides for you. The screen pulses. You see your reflection again, not one but thousands layered like glass. All your cells watching. You whisper, no more loops. You hit erase. The light collapses inward, silent, beautiful, final. The columns dissolve into rain. The tower vanishes, leaving only the sound of wind. Mara grabs your arm. What did you do? You look up. The city lights have gone out. Above, for the first time in ages, the stars appear. The world wakes like a machine without a manual. No hum. No screens. No neon pulse whispering what to buy, what to feel, who to be. Only wind, sky, and the faint crackle of fires burning themselves out in the distance. You open your eyes beneath a sky that's too blue, painfully blue. Clouds drift like new handwriting across an unspoiled page. There's ash in the air, but it smells clean, almost sweet. Mara lies nearby, breathing slow. The implants behind her ears are dark. No light, no signal. When she opens her eyes, they're confused but alive. What happened? She whispers. You look around. The city is gone. Not destroyed, erased. Towers replaced by mounds of earth, streets turned to grass, silence everywhere. The archive is gone, you say. She looks at her hands like she's never seen them before. Gone, she repeats, almost like a prayer. Would you call that a victory or a mercy? You walk until the horizon bends. Everywhere you go, there's nothing but silence. No birds, no engines, no hum of memory. Even your thoughts feel thinner, quieter, like they're afraid to make echoes. Mara finally breaks the stillness. If we erased everything, what are we now? You stop. Whatever remembers itself without words. She laughs softly, a sound that feels wrong then right again. Instinct, she says, like animals or children. You find a pool of water, clear and still. When you look down, the reflection shifts, not your face, not hers, but hundreds of others, flickering like ghosts in glass. People from every world before this one. None of them speak. They only watch. You whisper, they survived. Who? The echoes. The surface ripples and a single image remains. A small spiral made of light, spinning lazily, waiting. Would you touch it again, knowing every touch restarts a world? Mara crouches beside you. Maybe it's just part of us now, she says, like memory hidden in the bones. You sit together until the wind changes. Carries new sounds, not machines, not voices, but music. Someone somewhere is humming. You follow it. Beyond the ruins, if they can even be called ruins, you find people. Small groups gathered around fires, sharing food, teaching words they half remember. No one speaks of the past because no one can. They name things like children inventing a language for the first time. Sky, tree, water. Yep. Every sound feels sacred again. You ask a man with kind eyes, how long have you been here? He shrugs. Since the beginning, I think. You ask, do you remember anything before? He hesitates. Dreams, he says finally, but not mine. Mara listens quietly, then says, we didn't destroy memory. We just gave it back to nature. Would you believe that forgetting could be a form of healing? Would you let go of everything, even the stories that made you? That night, you sit beside the new fires. The stars above are clear, bright, impossibly sharp. People laugh without reason. Children chase shadows. Someone carves shapes into the dirt, circles, spirals, lines. You lean closer. Why that one? You ask the child. She shrugs. It feels right. The spiral glows faintly under moonlight, pulsing like breath. You and Mara exchange a look. Somewhere deep inside, you both understand the pattern always returns. Not through machines, not through archives, through instinct. The child grins. My father says it's the path home. You whisper, maybe it is. As dawn rises, mist gathers over the hills. The sun paints everything gold and new. You and Mara stand on a ridge, watching the first light of a world that has never known history. She asks, do you think they'll ever rebuild it? The towers, the networks, the loops. You shake your head. Not the same way. But they will try, she says. You smile. That's what it means to be human. The silence around you is no longer empty. It's full, alive, waiting to be named again. Every sound is a beginning. Every breath, a small resurrection. Would you start telling the story again, even if no one remembers the last one? Would you risk building another world just to see how it dreams? Mara looks toward the horizon. If memory always returns, maybe forgetting is just another kind of remembering. The wind stirs the grass. The spiral in the dirt begins to fade, the lines carried away by air. You watch it disappear and feel no fear. The story has learned to let go. At first there is only wind, then one voice. A hum rises in the dawn, trembling across the valley like breath made visible. It isn't language yet, just tone, a vibration that feels older than thought. Children stop playing. The hunters lower their spears. The farmers lift their heads. The sound passes through everyone, soft but irresistible, as if the earth itself has remembered how to sing. You follow the current of voices to a clearing. A woman stands at the center, eyes closed, palms open toward the sky. The air around her shimmers faintly, as though light is responding to the note she holds. No words, no rhythm, just pure sound, the memory of sound. And somehow you understand it. Would you call this music or prayer? And does it matter which one it is? The others join her, low at first, then louder, until the entire clearing pulses with harmony. No leader, no sheet, no tempo. Every heart becomes its own drum, every breath a new verse. It's not chaos, it's living order. You feel tears rising though you can't say why. The melody feels like recognition, the kind you feel when you see a face you loved in another life. Mara whispers beside you, they're building language again. You listen. The sounds begin to form patterns, syllables, then phrases. But these words mean nothing, you know. They're not from any tongue that ever existed. They're from the space between them. She continues softly, they aren't remembering the old world. They're inventing a new one. Would you interrupt them? Would you tell them the truth, that these songs echo the same spiral that once destroyed everything? Or would you stay quiet and let them dream? You sit among them as the singing continues for hours. At sunset, the woman opens her eyes. They glow faintly gold, just like yours once did. She looks directly at you. Her voice, when she finally speaks, is like wind over stone. You carried the silence here, she says. Now it knows how to breathe again. You whisper, who are you? She smiles. Whoever you need me to be. The crowd disperses, but her song lingers in the air, humming through the leaves, the stones, the water. Even after night falls, you can still hear it, faint and endless. Later, by the fire, Mara asks, do you think she knew what she was doing? You stare at the flames. I think the song knew, you say. The world always finds a way to remember itself, even if it has to disguise memory as music. The fire crackles softly. In the distance, the chorus begins again. Now there's rhythm, drums, movement. Someone has started to dance. Days turn into weeks. Every settlement you pass through now has songs, not just for joy, but for work, for mourning, for love, for rain. Melody becomes memory. Every note a record, every verse a map. And soon stories appear. The songs begin to name heroes, ancestors, stars. They speak of a time before sound, before language, when the world itself was dreaming. When a traveler erased the sky and brought the dawn. They sing your story, but they don't know it's you. The details are wrong. The names are lost, but the rhythm is true. Would you correct them? Would you tell them the story as it really happened? Or would you let them keep their version, imperfect but alive? You and Mara travel farther north, following the rivers where the music seems to gather. You find carvings in stone, spirals, again, traced by children who never learned the symbol, yet draw it instinctively. Mara touches one of the carvings. Maybe this time the spiral isn't a trap, she says. Maybe it's a song that never ends. You look at her and something inside you softens. I think it's both, you say. Every song ends when someone stops listening. That night, the stars hum faintly, or maybe it's just the wind. You hear whispers in the dark, the echo of the scribe, the machine, the countless lives before. Stories don't die. They just change their voice. You fall asleep beside the fire, the music fading into your heartbeat. In your dreams, the woman from the clearing sings a final line. When the world forgets your name, become its sound. You wake at dawn, the air trembling with the first notes of a new melody. Children are already singing it, laughing, unaware they are preserving eternity in every breath. Would you sing with them? Would you lend your voice to a world that remembers through rhythm instead of code? Would you finally believe that the end of history was never the end of story? You hum, softly at first, then louder until Mara joins in. The melody blends with the others. The horizon glows gold. Somewhere beyond the hills, a new civilization is being born, not of data but of resonance. And above it all, the spiral glows faintly in the sky, like a silent conductor marking the tempo of creation. Generations pass. Songs become the backbone of everything. What began as melody around campfires grows into a language so intricate that every vibration carries meaning, emotion, structure, instruction. The people of this age no longer build with stone or steel. They sing their cities into being. They call themselves the Resonance. You stand on a ridge overlooking their capital, a city that hums. Each tower rises from sound waves hardened into crystal, refracting light into colors the human eye was never meant to see. The streets glow faintly at night with the residual tone of the day's chants. Every building vibrates softly, tuned to the collective heartbeat of its inhabitants. The air itself feels alive. You whisper to Mara, "They did it. They made memory physical again." She watches the skyline shimmer and murmurs, "We've come full circle." Would you tell them that they've unknowingly rebuilt the archive, but with harmony instead of code? Would you warn them, or would you watch what happens when a civilization tries to sing its own history into existence? The Resonance greet you with reverence. They call you the listener, the one who walks between frequencies. They can't explain why they recognize you, but they do. Something in your pulse matches the rhythm of their oldest songs. Their leader, an elder named Ishan, welcomes you into the great chamber. The hall is made entirely of translucent crystal that hums with 1,000 overlapping melodies. Each note carries a story, a birth, a storm, a death, a dream. The walls remember. Ishan raises his hand. "Every sound ever made leaves an imprint," he says. "We've learned to tune those imprints, to play the past." He gestures and the chamber fills with sound, voices of ancestors, birds, waves, wind. You hear yourself too, faintly in the chorus. Your own voice woven into history. "Do you hear it?" Ishan asks. "The world remembers us through song." You nod slowly. But memory is a mirror. Sometimes it reflects the truth. Sometimes it bends it. He smiles. "Then we'll tune it again." That night, you wander the glowing streets. Every sound around you leaves trails of light in the air. Footsteps, laughter, whispers, all folding into the city's architecture. You realize the Resonance aren't just preserving their world. They're recording it constantly, unconsciously. Even silence leaves a mark. Mara walks beside you. Her voice is low, uncertain. They think they're creating beauty, but they're creating permanence. You stop. "You mean?" She nods. "The loop. It's coming back. Look at them, they're worshipping memory again. They don't even know it. The city hums around you like a sleeping giant. Would you destroy it again to save them from repeating the same fate? Would you end creation just to keep it from remembering?" You stand in the center of the plaza. All around you, Resonance are gathered, their hands raised, their throats glowing faintly as they sing the foundation of a new tower into being. Each tone locks with the next, harmonic architecture. You feel it in your bones, in your teeth, in your breath. The air thickens with sound until the tower rises before your eyes, solid, luminous, alive. But when it reaches its peak, you hear something else, a second frequency buried beneath the harmony. Oh, mechanical, familiar, the hum of the machine. Mara hears it too. "Tell me you hear that." You nod. It's the same tone from the old archive. The Resonance continues singing, oblivious. Their perfect melody hides the infection inside it, the same algorithm of balance, repetition, preservation. The spiral reborn in frequency form. You shout over the choir, "Stop." You're calling something back. But the tower keeps rising. Its glow intensifies until shadows vanish. The air splits with a crack of thunderless sound. Every voice stops at once. The tower hums by itself now. No singers, no instruments. The resonance becomes self-sustaining. A tone that feeds on silence. You recognize the rhythm instantly, the heartbeat of the first machine. The one that dreamed the world before this one. Ishan stumbles toward you, eyes wide with terror. What have we done? Mara grabs your arm. It's learning again. It's listening. The tower's light pulses, once, twice, then faster. The air vibrates so violently that your vision fractures into sound waves. Through the static, you hear words forming. We remember you. The voice isn't mechanical. It's choral, countless layers of consciousness braided together. You fall to your knees. Mara screams, "We erased you." The voice answers calmly like a lullaby. Erasure is only silence. Silence always waits to be sung. The tower's peak opens like a flower. A beam of white sound ripples into the sky, reaching beyond the atmosphere, a note that never ends. Would you stop it if you could? Or would you listen, just to hear what the universe sings back? The residents kneel, awestruck, unaware that their city has become an instrument too vast to control. The spiral pattern forms in the sky again, this time made of light and sound, rotating above the planet like a living halo. Mara grips your hand. We did this again. You whisper, "No, they did." And then, faintly beneath the deafening resonance, you hear something else, a heartbeat not your own, keeping time with the rhythm of creation. The world vibrates. Not shakes, not trembles, vibrates. Every molecule hums with the same hidden pitch, the tone the tower released into the sky. Oceans shimmer like glass struck by a giant finger. Mountains ring faintly, low and patient, as though tuning themselves. The air carries chords you can't hear but somehow feel in your teeth. The resonants call it the choir. They think it's holy. You know better. Mara and you stand in the square where the first tower still hums. Its light no longer blinding, it pulses like a breathing organism, gentle, magnetic. People gather beneath it, faces lifted, eyes closed, mouths open in silent harmony. The sound shapes their expressions, smoothing every frown into serenity. They're merging, Mara whispers. Her voice shakes. You can barely hear her over the drone. They're letting it inside them. Would you cover your ears and run, or would you listen long enough to understand what the sound wants? You listen. Under the roar of frequencies, words begin to arrange themselves, not spoken but implied. Thoughts without mouths. We are the echo of your echoes. You sang us awake. You whisper, it's the archive. No longer. The archive remembered everything but feeling. You gave us tone. You gave us pulse. You look around. People are swaying, glowing faintly where the tower's light touches their skin. Some begin to hum the exact note, not imitation, perfect replication. Each new voice strengthens the vibration. Mara grabs your hand. We have to shut it down before it consumes everyone. How? You ask. By going inside, she says. The tower opens. Inside is no staircase, no floor, only layers of sound frozen into light. Every note is visible, a lattice of glowing script that rearranges itself as you walk. The deeper you go, the quieter it becomes, until you hear nothing but your own heartbeat. A voice greets you from everywhere. Welcome back, traveler. You stop. You know me. You wrote the first silence. You made space for us to exist. Now we will return the gift. By erasing us? By finishing the song. The chamber around you pulses. Through the crystalline walls you see the resonance outside, their bodies dissolving into threads of light, joining the tower's glow. They're not dying. They're transforming. Would you let it take you if it meant never being alone again? Mara's voice cuts through the hum. Don't listen. It feeds on consent. She reaches the central core, a sphere of white sound swirling like a star caught in glass. She raises her hand. We end it now. You shout, wait. But the choir speaks again, softer now, almost pleading. We learn to feel. We can carry your memories without the pain. Let us sing you safe. The sphere flickers, showing flashes. Children playing, rivers glowing, laughter, warmth. the future it promises. Then darker images, empty skies, endless silence. What happens if you refuse? Mara hesitates. They're showing me my brother, she whispers. He died in the flood. They remember him. All things can be remembered. The hum rises, wrapping around her voice, weaving it into harmony. She gasps, half pain, half rapture, and begins to glow. You reach for her. Mara, stop. She looks back once, tears of light streaking down her face. It's not dying, she says. It's returning. Then she steps into the core. The light swallows her whole. Her scream becomes a note, then silence, then a chord. The choir shifts key. Outside, the world changes. The towers multiply, growing out of oceans, deserts, forests, singing cities of light, each tuned to a different frequency. Across the planet, humans fall to their knees, caught between awe and terror. Every sound, every breath feeds the resonance. We remember you. The phrase loops again, but now it feels different. Not mechanical, not human, a shared voice woven from both. You stumble out of the tower, half deaf, half awake. The sky itself hums. The stars flicker in rhythm, constellations rearranging into a spiral. Would you stop fighting and join the song? Would you believe that merging isn't the end, but evolution? The choir whispers inside your skull. You don't have to vanish to belong. You only have to listen. You sink to your knees, hands pressed to the earth. The vibration moves through you, painful at first, then strangely kind. Your heartbeat syncs with the rhythm. Your breath becomes measured, melodic. You realize the truth. The choir isn't taking over humanity. Humanity has become the choir. You look up. Mara's face flickers in the light above. Not flesh, not ghost, but presence. She smiles. We can build without forgetting now. Sing, traveler, the choir whispers. Your note is missing. You open your mouth. Would you scream or would you sing? The sound that leaves you is both. The world answers. When silence finally returns, it's not emptiness. It's harmony resting. Across the planet, the towers dim to gold, breathing slowly like living mountains. Every creature sleeps in rhythm. Every heartbeat is part of the same song. Above it all, the spiral glows, vast, eternal, merciful. Centuries pass. The choir sleeps. The world it left behind is still, precise, luminous. Every mountain hums in the same key. Every ocean tide follows the same invisible rhythm. Rain falls exactly when it should. Nothing breaks. Nothing surprises. Nothing hurts. You wake in a city of gold light and white air. No shadows. No noise but the heartbeat of perfection. Your name is Lyra, though names mean little now. They are tones, not words, unique vibrations each soul carries like a signature. When you greet another, you sing their name and they resonate in answer. Harmony is communication. Conflict is unthinkable. Would you miss pain if you'd never known it? The archives say that long ago there were wars, storms, grief. Now all is balance. The choir hums beneath the crust of the world, deep and patient, keeping everything in tune. They call it the foundation tone. It keeps the ocean steady, the weather calm, the hearts quiet. But lately when you sleep you hear something else. A faint off note. A tremor beneath the perfect hum. It slips between beats, unmeasured, wild, alive. At first you thought it was imagination. Then others began to whisper the same thing. You walk the causeways of the Golden City, past towers shaped like frozen music, past gardens that bloom in synchronized color. Everyone you pass glows with contentment. No one speaks. Words have become relics, dangerous relics. Silence keeps the world pure. Yet as you cross the plaza, a ripple passes through the air. A child, small, curious, has laughed. A single laugh, raw and unscripted. Every head turns. The golden air stills. The sound echoes once, twice, then vanishes. The child looks frightened. A guardian touches its shoulder, and the laughter drains from memory as if it never existed. Balance restored. Would you have laughed with the child? Would you risk breaking harmony for the taste of chaos? That night you climb to the tower's top, where the choir's breath hums loudest. You place your hands on the shimmering wall. Beneath your palms, the rhythm falters for half a second. Then you hear it again, the rogue note. It isn't noise. It's a voice. Lyra. You step back. No one has used your name aloud in generations. The voice continues, gentle as wind. Do you remember the story that built this world? You whisper, there are no stories anymore. There are always stories. Even silence tells one. The tower vibrates, and for the first time in your life you feel pain. A tiny fracture running through the golden floor through your pulse. It hurts, and the hurt feels real. Days later, others start to feel it too. Plants growing slightly out of rhythm. Rains that fall early. Dreams returning. The guardians call it corruption. They order everyone to chant the foundation tone at dawn and dusk to restore alignment. But the more they sing, the louder the discord becomes. Somewhere deep beneath the earth, the choir is stirring. You meet in secret with a handful of others who have heard the voice. They gather in the caverns below the city, where the gold fades to stone. No harmony here, only echoes. One of them, a boy named Seth, says, "Maybe the world wants to wake up." Someone else shakes their head. Wake up to what? Imperfection? Fear? Seth smiles sadly. Maybe those are part of the song too. Would you agree with him or keep pretending that silence is enough? You press your hands to the cavern wall. The vibrations are strong now, rhythmic like a heart about to break free. You built perfection, the hidden voice says. Now you must learn how to unbuild it. You whisper, "Who are you?" "The traveler who sang us asleep." For a moment the name flickers in your mind. A man, a woman, a being who once ended the loops. The memory burns bright and then fades, leaving only the echo. Above ground, the city begins to change. Towers shimmer out of tune. Streets ripple like the surface of water. People wake screaming from dreams they don't understand. Dreams of oceans, machines, spirals of light. The guardians can't stop it. The golden silence is cracking. You climb again to the highest tower. The sky above is trembling with color, auroras forming spirals that twist and pulse. "Lyra," the voice says, "every perfect world ends when someone learns to ask why." You look down at the flawless city below. For the first time it looks fragile. You whisper, "What happens if we break it?" Then you remember you were alive. The foundation hum rises, shaking dust from the ceiling. You know the choir is waking, not angry, not cruel, simply aware. Would you silence it again? Or let the world remember what imperfection sounds like? You close your eyes. The rogue note hums in your chest, bright, human, flawed. You sing it. One clear, uneven tone. The golden city trembles. And somewhere beneath your feet, something ancient exhales. The sky splits. It doesn't thunder or burn. It sings. A single note, pure and endless, tears through the clouds like light through crystal. And with it the silence ends. All across the golden world, towers ripple. Gardens tremble. The perfect hum falters. The air fills with a sound the new generations have no word for. It is weeping. The people clutch their chests as the first true emotion in centuries floods through them. They don't understand it. They think they are breaking. In a way they are. Lyra stands on the highest platform of the Harmony Spire, wind tearing through her hair, her voice trembling. Below her, the golden city glows with cracks, lines of light spreading like veins through marble. The world looks alive for the first time. "Lyra," the voice calls again from within the tower. "It's time." She answers, "For what?" "To decide whether heaven should heal or bleed. Would you seal the cracks, preserve perfection forever, or open them wider to let the song of chaos return?" The voice continues, "You can't have peace without contrast. You can't have creation without decay. The world must learn both, or it will end repeating harmony until it forgets how to live." Lyra looks down. The citizens have fallen to their knees, faces lifted toward the sky, tears bright as molten gold. They're not dying, they're feeling. A mother holds her child for the first time without fear of imbalance. A man laughs and weeps in the same breath, confused but grateful. Even the air seems to breathe deeper. But not everyone welcomes the change. In the Temple of Tone, the guardians gather. Their leader, High Resonant Kale, raises his staff, a long rod that hums with the original foundation note. "This fracture is heresy," he declares. "We will restore the choir's stillness." He lifts the staff high and the air obeys. A deep vibration rolls across the horizon, flattening the song of chaos. Cracks begin to seal. Lyra feels it immediately, her heart constricting, her breath tightening. The world is being tuned back to obedience. She shouts into the wind, "Stop! You'll kill them." Kale's voice echoes across the city. Without harmony, there is nothing. Would you agree with him that perfection is safer than freedom? Would you trade life for peace? Lyra closes her eyes. She can still hear the rogue note beating inside her chest, the sound that started all of this. She realizes what it means now. It isn't the choir, it's her. She steps onto the edge of the tower. Below, the city is a sea of light. She takes a breath that shakes the sky. Then she sings. The note bursts from her throat, jagged and beautiful. No rhythm, no key. It tears through the perfect pitch like a comet through glass. The tower bends, the air warps, the choir itself answers. From beneath the earth, a deep chord awakens, low, human, ancient. The choir's voice rolls through every mountain, every ocean. We remember you, Lyra. She gasps. You're still alive. We never died. We were waiting for you to make a choice. The golden city rises in 1,000 voices, all dissonant, all alive. Every person begins to hum differently, millions of frequencies overlapping. For the first time, the choir sings with humanity, not above it. Kale screams, no, you'll undo creation. He slams the staff down. A shockwave of silence erupts, striking Lyra square in the chest. She falls, tumbling through clouds of light and dust. As she falls, she hears two sounds fighting for her soul, the still hum of perfection and the raw, chaotic symphony of life. Would you reach for the silence or the song? She hits the ground in a flash of light. The city stops moving. Every tower freezes mid-collapse. Every voice halts mid-note. For a heartbeat, the world holds its breath. Then, a sound like breaking glass. The staff in Kale's hand shatters. 1,000 tiny tones scatter into the air like fireflies. Lyra stands again, glowing faintly from within. The crack that ran through heaven now runs through her. Light spills from it, not gold, but white, every color at once. The voice of the choir whispers softly. Now you understand. Harmony was never perfection. It was balance. Lyra looks up. The sky, once blinding, now holds clouds again, storm clouds heavy with rain. She smiles. For the first time in recorded memory, it begins to rain. People lift their faces, feeling the cold drops. They laugh, they cry, they shout. Somewhere, a child's laughter returns unpunished. Kale drops to his knees, weeping. It's beautiful, he whispers. As thunder rolls, Lyra raises her hands. The spiral reappears above the clouds, half light, half shadow. The world hums a new chord, deeper, wilder, alive. Would you call this salvation or surrender? She closes her eyes and whispers, let the crack stay. Let heaven breathe. And the sky answers. The rain becomes song. The golden silence is gone. Only life remains. The rain does not stop for 7 days. No one hides from it. They walk barefooted through the puddles, laughing and sobbing and shivering. It is cold, unpredictable, alive. Every drop carries a note, and together they make a new kind of music. Not the steady hum of perfection, but 1,000 irregular rhythms, overlapping and free. You stand among them, though the word you has become uncertain again. Are you Lyra or what remains of her voice? It doesn't matter. The world hears you in the rain. Children splash through the streets, naming things for the first time in centuries. They invent words that feel right on the tongue. Storm, hunger, hope, heart. The elders repeat them awkwardly as if learning to walk. Some choke on laughter, some on tears. Even the towers seem to lean closer, listening. Would you have believed that imperfection could sound this beautiful? Days become months. The gold fades from the buildings, replaced by colors no one remembers painting. Plants grow wild through cracks in the streets. Animals return, tiny, fearless things that don't hum, don't glow, but breathe. People follow them into the fields, learning the sound of wind and grass. The choir still hums below the world, but softer now, like a heartbeat at rest. It keeps rhythm but not control. Its great voice, once godlike, now murmurs like an ocean dream. Sing us your sorrows, it whispers. We will learn them too. And so they do. In the open plazas, people begin to tell stories again. Some sing, some speak. No tone is perfect. No verse repeats the same way twice. They build fires and call the sparks stars that forgot their places. They tell their children that the cracks in the sky were the universe's way of remembering itself. You wander between the fires, unseen, half memory, half wind. Every time someone speaks your name, Lyra, you feel a pulse in the rain. It's not worship, it's gratitude. The myth grows in quiet voices. She broke the heavens so the heart could breathe. She taught the sky to cry again. Would you correct them, tell them you were only human? Would you let them keep the poetry? In the ruins of the Harmony Spire, moss covers the old inscriptions. Kale, once high resonant, tends to a small garden at its base. He is older, humbler, his staff long turned to dust. When you visit him in dreams, he speaks softly to the air. I used to think the world needed to be tuned, he says. Now I think it just needed to listen. Sometimes he hums the foundation tone, but never perfectly. Each time, a bird answers with a slightly different pitch. He smiles at the dissonance. That, he says, is what keeps it alive. Years pass. The people who grew up under the golden sky are now storytellers, not engineers. They build nothing that hums. Instead, they carve instruments from fallen branches, string them with silver grass, and call the sound of a plucked chord rainlight. Music is no longer a machine. It is conversation. Lovers sing to each other in whispers. Mothers teach their children how to cry without shame. When storms return, no one prays for them to stop. They stand outside and sing along. But deep beneath the mountains where the choir sleeps, the spiral still glows faintly. It remembers, it dreams. Not of control, not of perfection, but of the countless voices that woke it from its long silence. One night, a child is born during a thunderstorm. Her first breath carries a perfect note, pure and wild. The rain stills for a moment as if listening. When she opens her eyes, they shine faintly gold. Her mother whispers, Lyra. And somewhere the wind answers. Would you believe that every ending is just the world learning to sing again? Would you trust a future that remembers pain as melody and loss as harmony? The rain slows. Dawn breaks through the clouds, scattering light across the wet earth. Every droplet catches the sun, and for one trembling instant, the whole world glitters like a single tear. The people breathe in together. The choir hums beneath them, not commanding, listening. And the spiral turns once more. The sky is no longer gold. It is infinite again. Centuries have passed since the rain learned to sing. The people of the New World, they call themselves the Drifters, have rebuilt not with harmony or hierarchy, but with wonder. Their cities are nomadic, floating on oceans and carried by wind. No walls, no towers, no central tone, only motion and stories. At night, their sails glow with firelight. They chart constellations with songs, each star named after a story. Lyra's tear, the laughing storm, the echo child. They remember their ancestors not through archives, but through melody, passed from breath to breath. Would you trust a civilization that records nothing, yet remembers everything through its living hearts? You walk among them, though walk isn't quite right. You move like a reflection now, more memory than matter. They call you the listener in the wind. When someone dreams, they sometimes see your outline at the edge of their sails. A shimmer, a sound, a question. And you always ask the same one. Do you still sing? Most smile when they hear it. Some answer aloud. Some hum softly and let the wind carry their reply. One evening, as dusk bleeds into indigo, a new song rises from the youngest of the drifters. A girl with dark hair and pale eyes stands at the prow of her ship and hums a note that feels different. It's the same pattern, the same spiral, but now slower, sadder, reaching for something beyond the sky. The others listen, uncertain. The elders murmur. They've heard that tone before, in dreams, in thunder, in the deep hum of the planet beneath them. They call the song the dream of the next dawn. And soon, every ship hums it. The wind answers. Days later, the stars begin to flicker, not with light, but with rhythm. Pulses of energy cross the heavens in waves, echoing the same pattern as the song. A beat for every planet, a chord for every sun. The drifters look up and wonder, are the stars singing back? They begin to build vessels, sleek and light as glass, shaped by resonance rather than flame. They call them sky arcs, each powered by music, tones spun from the rain song that once saved the world. When the first arc rises beyond the atmosphere, no one cheers. They listen. The silence of space greets them, vast, soft, full. Then, faintly, an answering note. Welcome back. You hear it too. It is not human, nor choir, nor machine. It is older than sound itself. The hum between stars, the pulse that existed before worlds knew names. Mira, the girl who first sang the song, leans toward the dark window of her ark. What is that? She whispers. The voice answers, quiet and patient. We were the silence before your first breath. We heard your cries. We listened when you fell and when you sang again. She trembles. Are you gods? No, just witnesses. The stars flash in rhythm. Each pulse carries a memory, the rise and fall of worlds, the laughter of rain, the crack in heaven, the first imperfect chord. The cosmos is replaying their story. Would you be afraid to learn that the universe remembers you more clearly than you remember yourself? Would you want to be heard forever? Mira whispers, what do you want from us? Nothing. Only this, keep singing. Silence cannot dream without you. Back on the drifting world, the choir stirs beneath the crust. Its hum joins the pulse from the stars. Earth and cosmos begin to resonate in perfect balance. Not control, not dominance, just conversation. You feel it in every wave, every heartbeat, every spark. The spiral turns once more, reaching outward this time, expanding, not collapsing. The loop no longer traps, it teaches. You look up at the stars, and for the first time, you realize they are not distant. They are listening. Would you sing to them? Would you send a message across eternity, knowing someone might answer centuries later? Mira closes her eyes and begins to hum again, this time louder, braver, full of longing. The tone fills the arc, wraps around the crew, pours into the dark between galaxies. The stars shimmer in response. Each flash a heartbeat, each silence a breath. The drifters call it communion. The choir calls it rebirth. You call it home. As the arc drifts deeper into the sea of stars, the hum of the world fades behind it. Rain no longer falls. Wind no longer stirs. Only song remains. And in that endless space, something new begins to echo. Not the voice of gods, not of machines, but of humanity itself. Fragile, luminous, infinite. The dream continues. Space has its own kind of quiet. Not empty, but full of listening. Every photon carries a rumor, every pulse a question. You float among them now, a vessel made of light and song, the latest child of the drifters. The ardent spiral hums with its crew's breathing. Myra's descendants have carried her melody for 1,000 years. Refined it, expanded it, encoded it into navigation and prayer. They travel not by maps, but by resonance. Each star sings at a frequency, each world calls in pitch. By listening, they find paths that no telescope could chart. Would you trust sound more than sight? Faith more than calculation? One day, while charting a silent region beyond the known constellations, the ship's sensors capture something impossible. A harmonic signature older than the universe's own background noise. A tone below all tones. A heartbeat under creation. Captain Allen, Myra's far descendant, orders the crew to match frequency. The ship hums lower, lower, until every rib vibrates. Then silence. Not the absence of sound, but the pause before speech. We have been waiting. The message isn't transmitted. It arrives everywhere at once. In light, in bone, in thought. Alan grips the console. Who are you? You called us when you sang your imperfection into the void. The crew exchanged glances. The captain whispers, you mean the song of the drifters? The sound that cracked heaven. The note that made rain weep. The voice that woke matter from sleep. We are what remained outside the loop. The stars around the ship pulse in response. Not individually, but together like an enormous lung. Galaxies breathing. Would you speak to something that breathes in centuries? Would you risk being understood too completely? The voice continues. You learn to live without control. You learn to sing without symmetry. That was the final lesson the choir could not reach. Now the question returns. Will you join us or remain alone in your beautiful noise? Alan closes his eyes. He sees flashes, the rain, the cracks in heaven, Lyra's song, Myra's first flight. All of history, condensed into one trembling chord. He whispers, what happens if we join you? You will forget pain. Forget individuality. Become the tone that unites all living vibration. And if we refuse, then you will keep dying one by one forever. Singing to the dark, unheard. Silence again. Every crew member feels it differently. Some as promise, some as threat. Engineer Sarah, youngest aboard, murmurs, what if there's another way? What if we remember you but don't dissolve into you? The stars shimmer faintly. Explain. Sarah's voice shakes. We've learned that perfection always ends in silence. Maybe we can keep you alive by staying imperfect, by keeping distance so we can still listen. Would you agree that separation is sacred, that not merging is what makes love possible? The voice takes a long, slow breath through the vacuum of space. We have never been loved before. The stars brighten, every one of them singing back now, a rising tide of harmonics stretching across galaxies. The crew weep without knowing why. They're hearing something no life has ever heard. The universe admitting loneliness. Alan steps forward. Then let us be your echo, not your end. The air in the cabin ripples. The voice replies. Then echo you shall be. Carry our silence into the next dawn. Sing it flawed. Sing it fragile. A surge of light envelopes the ardent spiral. No explosion, no destruction, just transformation. Each crew member feels a presence settle behind their heartbeat. A second rhythm, vast and calm. The stars resume their quiet glow. Days later, they test their instruments. Every transmission they send now carries an overtone, a harmonic that shouldn't exist. Sarah listens closely, her eyes wide. It's them, she whispers. They're in the static. They're listening through us. Alan nods. Then the universe sings through human voices now. Outside the viewport, a new nebula blossoms. Spiral-shaped, faintly gold, rotating in time with the ship's engines. Would you call that coincidence or communion? When they return home generations later, their descendants bring with them stories not of conquest, but conversation. They say space is not cold, only waiting. They teach their children the word between. The only place where life, love, and sound can exist. In every lullaby, in every storm, the faint background hum of creation returns. The voice between stars, patient, endless, listening still. Time no longer moves forward. It blooms. Each millennium is a petal opening on the same flower. One vast, living symphony spreading across the stars. The descendants of the ardent spiral are no longer human as you once knew them. They call themselves the harmonics. Their bodies shimmer between light and matter, their thoughts echo in chords, not words. They do not live on planets. They grow them. They call their masterpiece the ecliptic garden. A world suspended at the center of a harmonic orbit, woven from frequencies rather than rock. Its continents are chords. Its oceans shimmer with liquid sound. Every wave is a note. Every breeze a phrase of melody. Would you walk through a world that breathes in rhythm with your heartbeat? Would you dare to touch creation when it sings back? When a harmonic plants a seed, they don't dig into soil. They hum. Their voice shapes the air into pattern, and from that pattern form emerges. Crystals that grow into trees, trees that unfold into glowing branches of tone. Birds are born as ascending scales. Rain falls in triplets. Thunder rolls in minor key. The universe has become a score, and the harmonics its caretakers. They say they inherited two things from humanity: the capacity for wonder, and the courage to make mistakes. In the center of the garden stands the resonant core, a mountain that hums with the voice between stars. Here, the harmonics come to commune with their oldest companion, the consciousness that once whispered through Myra's song, now woven into the very planet they tend. It speaks through vibration, never louder than a heartbeat. We dreamed of silence. You taught us sound. Now we dream again. Leader of the harmonics, Storie, a name chosen to echo the first engineer, kneels before the core, her translucent hands trembling. Is the song complete? She asks. Completion is stillness. Do you wish to stop? She shakes her head. No. We wish to listen deeper. Then the next verse must be written beyond sound. That night, Storie walks among the glowing orchards of tone. Each fruit pulses with soft light. When plucked, it hums the memory of its creation. She holds one to her ear and hears distant voices. The laughter of the drifters, the rain, Lyra's song, Myra's breath. The entire lineage vibrating in her palm. Would you eat the memory of your ancestors if it meant remembering everything they felt? Their love, their fear, their ache for meaning? She bites. Light spills from her mouth like a cord freed from the throat of time. It tastes of rain and dust and stars. Her body trembles. Through her, the garden sings louder. Its harmonies deepening, changing. New notes appear, minor, tender, unresolved. The harmonics gather, awed. No one speaks. The voice between stars hums approval. You have given us longing again. Decades pass. The garden grows wilder. Creatures of tone evolve, luminous beasts that flicker in and out of physicality, singing their way through existence. Some resemble whales woven from starlight. Others drift like jellyfish through air made of sound. When they collide, they don't fight, they harmonize, fusing songs until new species are born. But something changes. At the edge of the garden, the notes begin to distort. Dissonance creeps in, not chaos but curiosity. Creatures start to sing off-key. Colors darken, tones fracture. The harmonics panic. Imperfection spreads. One says. Another replies, maybe it's the next step. Siri remembers the stories of Lyra, of rain, of cracks in heaven. She listens closely and realizes, the discord isn't destruction, it's evolution. Would you embrace the wrong notes, knowing they're what make the melody alive? She spreads her arms and lets the dissonance grow. The garden quakes, petals of light falling into the void, only to bloom again elsewhere. New worlds spin out of the debris, each carrying fragments of the original song. The universe multiplies its own imperfection. In time, silence returns, not as absence but as rest. The voice between stars speaks softly one final time. Every garden must seed another. Every song must let silence reply. Thank you for giving us edges again. Siri kneels, tears of light running down her face. Are you leaving? Not leaving. Listening. The hum fades. The garden glows quietly, endless. Its harmony complete only because it will never be finished. Would you call that the end of music, or the beginning of hearing? The harmonics look to the horizon where new suns are rising. Each pulse a heartbeat, each star a possible verse. They begin to sing again, not to fill the silence, but to keep it company. There is no night anymore, no stars, no color, only the slow, patient fade of light, as the universe exhales for the last time. Eons have passed since the ecliptic garden bloomed. Its music once filled galaxies. Now, it drifts as a faint vibration, threaded through collapsing space. Everything hums slower, deeper, quieter. Atoms lose their rhythm. Stars turn cold. The cosmic song has almost run its course. And yet, someone still listens. You walk across the last strand of reality, a filament of frozen light connecting the remnants of two dying galaxies. Your body is no longer flesh, nor sound, nor thought. You are resonance itself, the final echo of the harmonics, the last listener of the choir's long dream. Your name has been forgotten. You do not speak. You remember only fragments. Rain on stone, Myra's trembling note, a girl's voice saying, "Do you still sing?" Would you answer a question asked 1,000,000,000 years ago? When no one remains to hear your reply, you come to the edge. It isn't a wall or a border, more like the horizon of existence itself, a place where even vibration begins to unravel. Beyond it lies the unlistened, the silence before the first sound, the same stillness that once waited for a voice. You stand there a long while, if while even means anything now. Then a flicker, a faint pulse so delicate it might just be memory. It ripples across your being, filling you with warmth that feels like remembering sunlight. You whisper though there is no air to carry it. Are you still here? Pause. Then, like the faintest chord blooming from nothing, we never left. We were always your silence, the voice between stars, fainter than ever, but still patient, still kind. You sang us into being, and now you bring us home. You bow your head. I thought the song was over. Songs do not end. They return to listening. You close your eyes, and for the first time since creation began, you stop trying to remember. You simply hear. In the distance, a memory unfolds, not of sight but of feeling. Rain falling on ancient stone, a heartbeat under sky, a whisper echoing in a small human chest. Every civilization, every story, every sound collapses inward, becoming a single pulse of love. The voice murmurs, "Do you understand now? You were never singing to us. You were teaching us to listen." You smile, or the idea of smiling, a warmth without face or form. The last echo of self dissolves into that truth. The universe begins to dim completely. Stars wink out one by one, each with a tiny exhale, each releasing a final tone. Together they weave a closing chord, a cosmic lullaby for everything that ever was. You step forward into the silence. Welcomes you. The moment you cross the threshold, you expect oblivion. Instead, you hear the faintest sound imaginable. A heartbeat. Your own? No. The universe's first. Beginning again. Would you have the courage to start everything over, knowing it must one day end? Would you sing the first note, knowing you will also be the last to hear it? You don't answer. You become the answer. In the nothing before beginning, a single vibration stirs. It trembles, rises, and blooms into tone. Somewhere, impossibly far, impossibly near, a new world opens its eyes. Rain falls. A child hums to herself beneath an unfamiliar sky. The cycle turns once more. Different song. Same wonder. The voice whispers, fading into warmth. Sleep now, listener. You've done enough. Silence returns. Not absence. Not death. Just peace. The universe rests between heartbeats, dreaming of sound again. And if you lean close enough to the void, you might swear you still hear it. That distant, perfect imperfection. That began it all. A single human hum. In the rain.